So, this is called all of the distractions. Actually, Bhikkhu Bodhi translated as taints, but distractions works better. Thus have I heard on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathan Pandika's Park. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, venerable sir," they replied. Blessed One said this, "Monks, I shall teach you a discourse on the restraint of all the distractions. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say." "Yes, venerable sir," the monks replied. The Blessed One said this, "Monks, I say that the destruction of all the distractions is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and see. Who knows and sees what? Wise attention and unwise attention. When one attends unwisely, unarisen distractions arise and arisen distractions increase. When one attends wisely, unarisen distractions do not arise and arisen distractions are abandoned." Now, what does that mean? When you're sitting in meditation and your mind gets distracted, your mind gets pulled away from your object of meditation. Why does that happen? Because your mindfulness is not very strong at that time. And the definition of mindfulness is remembering to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. Now, anytime you hear the word wise or wisdom in the discourses, it is talking about how the links of dependent origination actually do occur. When you have a distraction, what happens is a feeling arises. Feeling is either pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant. Doesn't have anything to do with emotions. This is just feeling. Right after the feeling, there is a tightness that happens in your head, in your mind. Now, when this tightness arises, it is the way you can recognize craving when it arises. Craving is the I like it, I don't like it mind. And that causes tension and tightness to arise in your mind and in your body. Okay, you have, your brain is like this, and you have a membrane that goes around each one of these lobes. Every time a distraction arises, that membrane contracts just a little bit and causes tightness and tension in your head around your brain. So anytime a distraction arises, there is craving. If the feeling is pleasant, I like it. If it's not pleasant, I don't like it. And this is the start of the identification, the taking personally of that feeling and saying, this is me, this is mine, this is who I am. So, right after that craving, that tightness arises, then you have a lot of thoughts and opinions, concepts, ideas, and a story about why you like or dislike that feeling. And right after that, you have your habitual emotional tendency. Now you're made up of 5 things. You have a physical body, you have feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. You have perception. Perception is the part of the mind that names things, and it also has memory in it. So you look at this and your mind says that's a book. Perception is a part of the mind that said that. And you have thoughts, and then you have consciousness. Now, when a distraction arises, especially if it's a painful distraction, what you try to do is you try to think the feeling away. And the more thoughts you have about the feeling, the bigger and more intense the feeling becomes. So, what do we do when there's this kind of distraction? Now, what developed over the years is a way of looking at things through the eyes of right effort. Right effort has 4 parts. Noticing an unwholesome state when it arises. Letting go of that unwholesome state and relaxing. Bringing up a wholesome state, smiling. Coming back to your object of meditation and staying with your object of meditation for as long as you can. Now we call this the 6 R's. It's just a way of reminding yourself that you need to practice this. Okay? Recognize, release. Release means not keeping your attention on it. Relax. That means letting go of that tension and tightness in your head around your brain. When you do that, you feel an expansion. You feel, or you notice that there's not any thoughts. Your mind is alert, your mind is very bright, and your mind is pure because you've let go of that craving. Now, bringing up a wholesome object. The easiest way to bring up this wholesome object is by smiling. And I have a lot of people that have practiced meditation a lot, and they tell me that the Buddha never taught smiling. Well, the Buddha taught us to be happy. What's the expression of happiness? Right, smiling. Now when the corners of your mouth go up, so does your mental state. And the corners of your mouth go down, so does your mental state. So the more you can smile while you're doing your meditation, the lighter your mind becomes. And the more alert your mind becomes. And it's much easier to notice when you're starting to get caught by a distraction. So when you practice smiling and you see all the Buddha images around, they have a little smile on their face. Okay, what's the artist trying to show you? That there's joy. When you smile, you have a tendency to have more and more joy in your practice, in your life. So the more you can smile with your daily activities, no matter what you're doing, the lighter your mind becomes. The more you have joy in your mind. It improves your mindfulness a lot. You're able to see how mind's attention moves from one So, the first thing you do when a painful feeling arises in particular is notice that you have all of these thoughts. And let go of those thoughts. How do you let go of thoughts? By not keeping your attention on them. And then you relax and smile. Come back to your object of meditation. Stay with your object of meditation for as long as you can. If you can get proficient at practicing these types of right effort, it will take you all the way through the spiritual path. So practicing right effort is really the essence of the Buddha's teaching, along with other things that I'll discuss a little later. So when I was talking about a feeling arising, and then the craving arising, and then the your story about and your emotional habitual tendency of always trying to control feelings with thoughts, it doesn't work. It makes the feeling bigger and more intense. What happens right after that habitual tendency is you have the birth of action. And right after that, there's a lot of sorrow and lamentation, pain, grief, and despair.
I've seen this a couple times.
The reason I've done that is it's like the hellfire and brimstone teachers or preachers, you know, it's in the book. So, so anyway, that is the cause of suffering. Okay, that's how it works. Now, what I just explained to you was some links of dependent origination. Now, your mind is on your object of meditation and it gets distracted. What do you do with that? The question is not why did that distraction arise? The question is how did it arise? And it always, every distraction always arises in exactly the same way. Feeling arises, craving arises, clinging arises, habitual tendency, birth of action, suffering. That's how it works. And when I was in Asia, I was telling the Asians, who have a lot of pride about being different than Westerners, that everybody's mind works the same way. And they didn't really like that idea. But that's the brilliance of the Buddha's teaching. I mean, this is the human condition that he's expressing right here. Every human being, their mind works in exactly the same way. It doesn't matter what the cultural overlay is. This is what makes the Buddha's teaching so phenomenal. So, when you have a distraction arise, anything that pulls you away from what you're doing in the present moment is a distraction. You always treat the distraction in exactly the same way. You recognize that your mind is distracted. You release that distraction by not keeping your attention on it. So, the distraction arises, and you notice that it's there, and then you don't keep your attention on that. You change and put your attention on relaxing that tension and tightness in your head. Then you move your attention back to bringing up a smile. Then you move your attention to your object of meditation and stay with your object of meditation for as long as you can. It doesn't matter how many times your mind gets distracted in a sitting. It doesn't matter at all. Too many times, especially if you've had any Zen practice, they tell you, well, just have a still mind. Have an empty mind. Well, those are nice words, but how are you supposed to do it? See, one of the things that happens is that you wind up sitting telling yourself, well, I'm not supposed to have these thoughts, and I'm not supposed to have these feelings. But what's the truth? When they're there, they're there. And that's the truth. Now, what are you going to do with the truth? What you do in the present moment dictates what happens in the future. This is karma. Now, you have a choice right then. You can try to think your feeling away, which only makes the feeling bigger and more intense. You can fight that feeling with your mind as much as you want, but that only makes it worse. Or you can accept the fact that you're thinking about a feeling, so let go of the feeling, let go of the thoughts. Now relax. As soon as you relax, your mind becomes clear, your mind is alert, your mind is bright, and your mind is pure. Why is it pure? Because there's no craving in your mind. So, right after you relax, you'll notice that there's a tight mental fist wrapped around that feeling. I don't like that feeling. I don't want to be distracted by it. I don't want it bothering me. Again, the truth is, when the feeling is there, it's there. You can't control the feeling with your thoughts, so you have to allow that feeling to be there. And as soon as you allow that feeling to be there, you relax again. Smile, come back to your object of meditation. Now, almost everybody has this idea that any kind of hindrance that arises in their practice, you're supposed to fight it. You're supposed to destroy it. You're supposed to suppress it and make it stop. But the truth is, when a distraction arises, that's showing you where your attachment is. What is attachment? Attachment is anything that you take personally. This is me, this is mine, this is myself. So, when you see that a feeling is there, if you make it personal, it's like taking a hot coal and putting it in your hand, and you say, oh, that's hot, that hurts. And what you try to do when you're trying to push that feeling away is like squeezing that coal, and you say, well, that really hurts. Right? So what are you supposed to do with this painful feeling? Well, let it be. And relax into it. Smile. Come back to your object of meditation. Well, I'm only there for a second. My mind gets pulled back. So, do it again. And again. And again. It doesn't matter how many times it arises. Every time you let go of a distraction and you relax and come back to your object of meditation, it improves your mindfulness. It improves your observation power. So that hindrance is teaching you a very valuable lesson. How did mind's attention move? So you're bouncing back and forth for a little bit. Fine. When you get familiar enough with watching how mind's attention moves, you'll notice right before you really got distracted, there was something else there. So you come back, and the next time your mind gets distracted, you start 6Ring right then before you really get caught. Now, what are you doing when you do that? You are teaching yourself how these links of dependent origination actually work. So the hindrance isn't something to try to push away. This is your best friend. It's showing you a valuable lesson where your attachments are and how to let go of the attachment. So the hindrance is your teacher. This is something that you can take with you, whether you're sitting in meditation or living your daily life. I actually recommend that you don't close your eyes when you're listening to a Dhamma talk. Touch him. Keep your eyes open, please. It can be disrespectful falling asleep during a Dhamma talk. So, the whole thing with any kind of distraction, anything that takes your attention away from what you're doing, now you have a teacher that's showing you where your attachments are. And you start letting it go, and you start relaxing and smiling, and you come back to your object of meditation. And the object of meditation with your daily life can be the smile. Now, when you do this, what happens is hindrances here. If I'm here, I'm going to try to control that hindrance with my thoughts, and I'm going to push against it. And the hindrance pushes back and gets stronger. And then I try more. I don't like this. I don't want it there. Well, guess who's making the hindrance bigger and more intense? This is why the 6 R's are so incredibly important. But when I'm not there, the hindrance tries to push, but there's nothing to make it any stronger, so it gets weaker. And over a period of time, that hindrance will get so weak that it will fade away. When it fades away, you will feel a sense of relief. And right after that, joy arises. And the kind of joy that you'll experience is not a regular kind of joy. This kind of joy, your mind feels very light, and very bright, and you feel light in your body. Okay, that kind of joy will be there for a little while, and that will fade away, and then you will feel very tranquil, and you'll feel really comfortable in your mind and in your body. That's what the Buddha called happiness. Your mind will stay with your object of meditation very easily. It can still have some thoughts in it, but you'll see it really quickly and you'll let it go very easily and then come back to your object of meditation. Now, what I just described to you is called the first jhana. There are actually two kinds of jhana in the world today. Okay, one kind of jhana is the kind of jhana that you develop deep, one-pointed concentration. This kind of jhana, when it starts to arise, will suppress any hindrance from arising, just by the force of the concentration. It's not like you're trying to suppress anything. The force of the concentration will just push it down. Now, you'll get into a state of very nice, peaceful, calm, kind of blissful. But your mind just stays on one thing, and one thing only. So you're not really learning how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. Your mind is just stuck like glue on this one thing. The other kind of jhana is what I'm teaching you right now. And this kind of jhana is, for want of a better expression, an aware jhana. It doesn't suppress anything. There won't be any hindrances arise as long as your mindfulness is good. As soon as your mindfulness gets weak, another distraction arises. And that's not bad. That's okay. Remember, this is how you're learning. This is teaching you how mind's attention moves. So this kind of jhana doesn't go as deeply into an object of meditation and stay there. So this is a more fluid kind of mindfulness and a fluid kind of jhana. Now, in the suttas, there is this pretty amazing sutta called One by One as They Occur. And it describes the first jhana. And what it actually starts to describe is all of the different things you feel while you're in the jhana. So these things happen just one, as they occur, they happen one thing at a time. It doesn't all just come in together and there it is. Now, one of the things that it describes in the first jhana is that you have body, feeling, perception, you have formations or thoughts, and consciousness. Now, if you have these 5 things called aggregates that arise, that is exactly the same thing as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. You have body, you have feeling, you have mind, have formations. The perception and feeling and actually mind all go together. So when you're practicing this kind of jhana, you are also experiencing the four foundations of mindfulness. This is important to realize, because if you start developing your concentration and it gets so deep that it just stays on one thing, you're not experiencing the four foundations of mindfulness at that time. You're experiencing one-pointed concentration and bliss, and it's real nice, and it's great while you're sitting in meditation. When you get out of that state and you lose your concentration a little bit, you still get hindrances coming up, but you're not able to recognize them. So it's real easy to get caught. Now, there's an awful lot of people that are practicing meditation today. That are practicing meditation today that they come and they tell me, I've hit a wall. I don't really learn much from the meditation. Now, what's the difference between what I'm showing you and what other people are practicing that hit the wall? I'm showing you one simple little extra step, and that is the relaxing. Remember, I said that when you relax that tension and tightness in your mind, you don't have any craving. When you're practicing one-pointed concentration, your mind's on your object of meditation. Gets distracted. Let go of the distraction, come back to your object of meditation. And what are you doing? You're bringing that craving back to your object of meditation, and you have not noticed how mind's attention really does work. See, when you're practicing what I'm showing you, your mind gets distracted, you let go of the distraction, you relax. You bring up a wholesome object of smiling and bring that mind back to your object of meditation. So it's not just it's not just practicing meditation. You're practicing full awareness, because you still have your body there, you still have feelings, you still have mind, you have formations. You have those four foundations of mindfulness. And it's very easy to be aware of them when they arise. Just because of this one extra step of noticing that tightness in your head and relaxing. Now, just about everybody here has tightness in their head right now. Notice that it's there. How do you let go of the tightness? By knowing that it's there and letting it be. In other words, relaxing. Now you'll feel kind of an expansion that happens in your head. And you'll notice that your mind is clear. Your mind is bright. Your mind is very, very much in the present moment. Bring up a wholesome object. Smile. And take that mind back to your object of meditation. So this is a practice that you can practice all the time during your daily life. But when you're practicing absorption concentration, you can't practice it with your daily life because it takes time to develop that concentration And once you get into that concentration, you lose track of everything else around you. So this kind of meditation, although it's not as deep as one-pointed concentration, is a very useful tool to take with you no matter what you're doing. Now you're at work, and all of a sudden you think about something that you forgot to do. Oh, I should have done this before I went to work. And all of a sudden, what happens to your mind? You start getting restless. You start thinking about all the reasons that you should have done it, and the effect of not doing it, and that causes anxiety to arise, and all of these other distractions. Now, how efficient are you at doing what you're doing when you're thinking about what I should have done? About worrying about what I should have done. You don't even know that you're here. You don't know you have a body because you get so caught up in your head thinking about this, thinking about that, worrying about this, hoping this is going to be whatever it is. It pulls you way out of the present moment. And you forget what you're doing. You're not very efficient at doing your job when that sort of thing arises, right? It only makes sense. So what's the easiest way to be able to recognize this and let it go and be in the present moment? Smile. Laugh at yourself for getting caught. Have fun doing it. 3 words you never hear from meditation teachers. Everybody that's taught meditation, they're taught to be serious. This is serious stuff. So you better put in more effort. You better try harder. Well, the biggest problem I have as a meditation teacher is stopping people from trying so hard, right?
Sir.
Right.
All together now.
I'm continually telling people, you're too heavy. Come on, lighten up. When you have fun doing this, you take more interest in doing it, and you get really good at doing it. Just like anything. I mean, if you want to learn to be a good golfer, you have to have fun doing it, even while you're screwing up and putting the ball where you don't want it to go. That's okay. As you have more fun, you pay more attention to what you're doing, and you get better at it. You don't run into walls until you start getting serious again. Till you start taking all of these things that come up personally, and then you try to control these things. And you try to control these things with your thoughts, but it's actually a feeling that came up. So you cause yourself all kinds of pain and suffering because you're not remembering how the process works. It's pretty straightforward. Life is supposed to be fun. But this guy, he did something I don't like. monks, I could tell.
Yeah.
Okay, the Buddha said, monks, there are these distractions that should be abandoned by seeing them. There are distractions that should be abandoned by restraining them. There are distractions that should be abandoned by using them. There are distractions that should be abandoned by enduring. There are distractions that should be abandoned by avoiding. There are distractions that should be abandoned by removing. There are distractions that should be abandoned by developing. So there's a lot of different ways of handling different kinds of distractions when they come up. What distractions, monks, should be abandoned by seeing? Here, monks, an untaught, ordinary person who has no regard for noble ones and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, does not understand what things are fit for attention and what things are unfit for attention. Since that is so, he attends to those things unfit for attention, and he does not attend to things that are fit for attention. What things are unfit for attention? The distraction, right? The worry, the fear, the anxiety, the anger, the sadness, whatever the catch of the day is. Well, what do you do with something like that? You remember the 6 R's? What's the second 6R? Release. Don't keep your attention on it. When you keep your attention on it, you start identifying with it more and more, and this little tiny bump in the road turns into a big, huge mountain that you can't get around. And it's all because you built it up in your mind. And then you say, I don't know how to solve this problem. It's such a massive, big thing. How can I solve it? Well, it's actually pretty easy to solve. Let it be. Relax. Smile. Come back to your object of meditation. In other words, you start attending to things that are fit for your attention. In other words, you're letting go of your attachment to your opinions, to your ideas, to your concepts, to your story. Okay, what things are unfit for attention that he attends to? There are these things which he attends to them. The unarisen distraction of sensual desire arises in him. The arisen distraction of sensual desire increases. The unarisen distraction of habitual tendency arises in him, emotion. And the arisen taint of emotion increases. The unarisen taint of ignorance arises in him, and the arisen taint of ignorance increases. Now, there's another sutta here. And it's not a big major sutta, but it has a couple lines in it that you need to hear. Oops. Whatever a person frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. If you frequently think and ponder on thoughts of sensual desire, then it will continually come up in your mind. If you frequently think and ponder on your thoughts of your emotional tendencies, dissatisfaction, frustration, dislike, anxiety, fear, depression, whatever, if you frequently think and ponder on that, it's going to keep coming back. Now you've lost the sense of fun in your life, and you get really serious. And whatever that distraction is, it gets so big that you want to run away from it. You want to go hide, or at least go where you can suffer by yourself. You go into your room, shut the door, leave me alone. And then after a while you distract yourself. Now you haven't given up the attachment to it. You just distract yourself until the next time some kind of a similar situation arises, and then the old distraction adds on to the new distraction, and it gets even bigger and more intense. I mean, this happens a lot, especially in America, with what they call depression. Now, what is depression? How does depression arise? When you become depressed, very serious, big problem, I don't like it. I don't want that feeling to be there. Push it away. Try to stop it. It gets bigger. And then you run to the doctor and he gives you some medicine that dulls you out. But at least you can handle the depression and kind of function in your daily life. So what the doctor is doing is giving you something that will dull that part of your mind, but the depression is still there. What is the cause of depression? I don't like it. I want it to be different than it is. And you keep thinking the feeling. Gets bigger and bigger and more intense. I know some people that have been depressed for years. And what's the real problem with that? They're taking everything that arises personally. They get so caught up in themselves, they don't even know what they're doing in the outside world. So, what do? Whose depression is it? Did you ask that painful feeling to arise? No. Can you make that painful feeling go away? No. So it's not yours. You can't control it, right? Whose is it? Well, it's just a feeling. And it's unpleasant. Well, welcome to the real life. We have unpleasant feelings arise. And it's okay for it to be there. It's only a feeling. First thing you do, let go of your thoughts about the feeling. Let go of the want to control the feeling. Then change your attention to relaxing. Change your attention to a little smile. your attention back to your object of meditation. Now, a lot of people have an idea that meditation is only sitting very still. But that's not what the Buddha taught. He said there's 3 different parts to the meditation. The first part of meditation is learning how to practice your generosity. Whoa, isn't that an odd thing? How do you practice generosity? You practice generosity in body, in speech, and in mind. Well, how do you practice it? Smile. Give the smile away. Say things that make people happy. Think kind thoughts about other people. One of the biggest problems with depression is the self-critical nature. You spend a lot of time thinking about yourself and how you don't like this and how you don't like that. But is that part of harmonious communication? Harmonious communication means communication with yourself and everybody else around you. So you have to stop being hard on yourself. A painful feeling arose. Fine. It can be there. Stub your toe and tell me it can't be there. Right? Doesn't matter whether it's mental or physical. What matters is what you do with it once it arises. So you let it be. Relax. Smile. Send somebody some loving and kind thoughts. Don't spend time criticizing. What does criticizing mean? It means you have an unhappy thought and you're taking it personally, and you get mad because the world is not matching the way you think it's supposed to be. And then the tightness is there, and then your emotional stuff gets all caught up, and you wind up saying things that are hurtful, not only to yourself, but to other people. So what do? When we practice our generosity, we're developing a new kind of habit where we're not super critical, where we're not caught up in I'm right and you're wrong. It's the practice of giving. There's a lady in Indonesia that she's been married a couple of years to this man. Right before the man got married, his father got a hold of him and he said, if you want a successful marriage, she is always right. She's always right. Even when you know that she's made a mistake, she's always right. Develop that mental habit of always thinking that she's right. And what happened in their marriage? They never fight. They never even have heavy-duty disagreements. See, it takes 2 to fight. And if I'm agreeing with you, how can you be mad at that? Okay, you're right. No problem. And then they can discuss without having the emotional burden of I'm right and you're wrong.
gets to be right all the time?
She
The
does.
woman.
Just want to clear that up.
There is also the possibility, if you agree with her, that you're both wrong.
Well, that can be right too.
Yeah, but she's right about being wrong.
And what's happened with them is they turn life into a game. Instead of getting serious and saying, well, you're always whatever. You know, you're being overcritical, you're always this way. No, they're always happy. That makes a difference. Okay? Now, what is that? That's, he is practicing his generosity to her. He's giving her complete trust. Say, okay, you're right. How can they fight? And every now and then she says, well, you know I'm always right. Why do you question me? And they have a little giggle about that. And they have some fun with it. What you think and ponder on, that's the inclination of your mind. If you think and ponder on, you're right, how can there be disagreements? It doesn't mean that you're always going to follow what she said, but at least you get the emotion out of the way so you can discuss. And have fun and laugh while you're doing it. That's practicing your generosity. Yeah.
I think it'd be better if you had like, she's right on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He's right on
Well-
Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
And Sunday you just go separate ways. Okay, try it, see if it works. I mean, that's, all life is an experiment, right? And when you were growing up, you had great fun doing this and doing that and laughing and singing and skipping, and why did you stop? Well, life is more serious than that. It is? Why? How does your mind feel when you laugh? When you smile? When you agree with somebody else? How does your mind feel? What you think and ponder on, that's the inclination of your mind. The thing with Buddhism is it shows you how to change. Okay? It shows you how to change. It shows you how to see something that's painful and gives you the opportunity to change so that it's not. And what does that mean? It means changing the way you see the world. If you see the world with a happy mind, then there's no argument with the world. If you see it with a critical mind, you got a lot of arguments. Okay? The Kalama Sutta is very big on if you do something and it causes you pain and anybody else pain, then don't do that anymore. But if you find something that you can do that makes you happy and everybody else around you happy, then do that over and over again. Does a critical mind make you happy and everybody else around you happy? See? Then don't do that anymore. If you make up your mind that the other person is right then you can discuss in a very calm way without emotional tightness that causes you pain and everybody else around you pain. Be aware of that and let it go. Don't keep hold of, I'm right. I'm always right. That's for your spouse to decide.
What a relief, huh?
Okay, so what you think and ponder on. I mean, and how many relationships is there that you get so familiar with the other person, you say, well, you're always that way. Well, what have you done? In your mind, you've taken and you've pigeonholed that person. So because you think they're always that way, they're always that way. Now, this is part of the Eightfold Path I'm talking about. The imaging, remember we were talking about it this morning. You have an image that you're always got the greatest parking karma. Okay? And because you think that, you do. Well, think how you can use that in other ways, especially with people that you're around a lot. How am I imaging them? Well, they always act this way when this happens. Well, yeah, as long as you image that, that's what's going to happen. But when you start opening up and you start realizing, well, let's image them in a different way. Let's image them smiling and happy and agreeable. Let's do that for a little while, see what happens. Does that lead to your happiness and the happiness of other people around? If it does, then do that more. The Buddha's teaching is eminently practical. And it's something that you can carry with you no matter what you're doing. So this is just the first part of meditation. Practicing your generosity. And when people, they get a little bit unbalanced in their thinking, you say, well, that person's out of their mind. That's not true. They're in their mind so much that they're not relating to things on the outside. Spending too much time thinking about, this is me, this is mine, this is who I am. But when you're practicing your generosity, it pulls you out. So you plan on ways to make other people happy. You can make somebody happy that's a little bit hungry by giving them an apple. You can make a little baby smile just by radiating loving kindness to them. You're practicing your generosity. It takes practice to do it. It takes being aware of what your mind is doing in the present moment. And if it's hard and set and you're imaging something in the wrong way, in an unharmonious way, then laugh. It's really odd that there isn't more people that are talking about laughing in Buddhism. Because when you laugh at yourself for being angry. You're not angry anymore. It's only this anger. So what does laughter do? It takes you from I'm that to, well, it's only this thing. It came up, yeah, these things come up. I have a choice now. Do I want to keep this anger or let it go? See, laughter, what it does is it helps promote the first fold of the Eightfold Path, and that's right view. But I call it harmonious perspective. What is a harmonious perspective? Seeing that everything is part of an impersonal process. Letting go of your attachments. You laugh with your attachments, you're not caught by the attachment anymore. It really works that way. See, so what I'm teaching you right now is about the Eightfold Path. And I'm teaching you the things that knock you off the Eightfold Path because you're taking it personally. When you develop the mind to be, when you develop your mind to have another person always be right, there's no more fight. There's no more war. Because that's what a fight is it's a war. And there's a winner and there's a loser. Now, that's both, everybody loses in a war. So, let go of that. Let the other person be right. It's not that important. Right? It's only important if you make it important. And now you have an opinion of the way the world is supposed to be. In other words, you're pigeonholing your thoughts about the world, and the universe is going to give you that. The universe always gives you what you focus on. So, make sure you focus on stuff that's fun. On stuff that makes you happy. And you can see that happiness in other people. This is how you practice so that you'll never harm another being. And life gets a lot lighter, easier. So the whole point of practicing meditation, quotes, is taking it with you in your daily life and using this. These are keys that unlock an uplifted mind. So when you sit, what you think and ponder on during the day, what happens during your sitting. You think and ponder on all kinds of emergencies, and I don't like this and I don't like that. What happens in your sitting? Why do you think your sitting is going to be any different than the rest of the day? Right? So it's all active. So be happy with everybody and everything that you're doing. Then you sit in meditation. Your meditation's going to be great. Not just good, great. Now, keeping the precepts is another important part of the meditation, because you break a precept, it causes hindrances to arise. Now you have to work with the hindrance, and sometimes you have to work really hard to let go of that hindrance. Now we've all done things in the past We've all broken precepts in the past. So there's going to be hindrances arise when our mindfulness is not very sharp. But if you don't keep your precepts now, then you can look forward to having the hindrances coming more around more regularly. And causing a lot of suffering. Now, the precepts, they're not commandments. You can break them if you want. It's your choice. But look at the end result of them. I'll tell you, you have 5 precepts, I have 227. Okay? And one of the precepts for monks is you don't eat solid food after the noonday meal. I was in Burma. This Korean monk came. He could sit for 3 hours. Easy. He decided he wanted to not be a Mahayana monk, but be a Theravada monk. So he let go of those robes, and when he became a Theravada monk, he knew that one of the rules was you don't eat after the noonday meal. But he decided that it didn't matter because he was hungry, he was going to eat after the noonday meal. He went from being able to sit for 3 hours without any problem at all to sitting for about 15 minutes, and then he had to get up because he was so restless, because he broke that precept. Well, this is basically the same thing that can happen for you when you break one of your 5 precepts. It can make the meditation not so good. And they're pretty easy to follow, really. And don't kill things on purpose. Don't take anything that's not given. Don't have any wrong sexual activity. Don't tell lies. Don't take any drugs or alcohol. 5 precepts, very easy to take. Your choice. But when you keep them without a break, what happens? You sit in meditation, your mind is already calm and peaceful. Progress in the meditation is very fast. You break the precepts, then your progress isn't so fast. So, practicing your generosity, keeping your precepts, these are daily activity kinds of things. These are part of the meditation that prepare you for sitting. And having distractions and all of these kind of things becomes less and less as you let these kind of things go. What time is it now? I've been talking for a long time.
8:30. An hour and a half.
Time just flies.
Well, time flies when you're having fun. Do you want me to keep going or not?
Maybe people have questions.
Yeah.
Do you have questions? You can certainly ask them.
I have a beginner question.
Okay.
Someone who's fairly new. I wasn't aware of all the precepts. I've broken them in the past.
Okay. Forgive yourself. Take the precepts again. Make the determination you're not going to break them.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure I wasn't damned.
It's not like that. There's nobody shooting lightning bolts at you
Just
when
checking.
you do it. You know, and this is something that's a real personal thing. You can do that if you want. It's your choice. Yeah,
So, feeling guilty is attachment. Is the,
of course it
is
is.
the craving.
That's why
Probably
you
the craving.
That's why you forgive yourself. Forgiveness is an incredible tool. Because we're so self-critical. Okay, we have to be able to forgive ourselves and let go of that attachment, that guilty feeling. That's who I am, that's mine. And you forgive yourself and say, well, okay. And now the attachment isn't so strong. And now you can use the 6 R's and it'll be easy to let it go. Yeah,
I have another question.
okay.
So your right attention, is that the Uniso Manasikara or not? Because I'm very confused about that term.
It's been a long time since I've been around Pali terms like that.
Anissa Sakara or something, what did you say?
Yes. Yeah. So, the more you can use 6 R's with your daily activities as well as your sitting, the less attachment you have. This is everything about Buddhism, is learning how to purify your mind. Purify your mind from 2 things, basically. Ignorance and craving. Okay, what's ignorance? Ignorance is truly understanding how the Four Noble Truths work. And it's not that you're stupid, it's just that you ignore. Okay? And that comes from a lack of education. You never heard of it, about it before. These kind of things happen. What are the Four Noble Truths? There is suffering. Nobody has to tell you about that one. It's pretty obvious. There's a cause of suffering. Cause of suffering? Craving. There is the cessation of suffering. Every time you let go of an attachment, every time you use the 6 R's, you are experiencing the cessation of suffering. And the way leading to the cessation of suffering is the Eightfold Path, which is what I've been talking about all night. A lot of times, I don't tell you that that's what I'm talking about. I'll let you figure it out on your own. Kema decided that she wanted to go away and go to New York City and just spread her wings a little bit. And I said, okay, you can do that. But I don't want you giving Dhamma talks unless it's on the Four Noble Truths. So she didn't give any Dhamma talks. She came back, and about 6 months later, she's going through all of these suttas, and she's saying, every sutta is the Four Noble Truths. Yeah.
So when you have the distraction, you have the tightening over your head. That's also suffering.
Yes, it is. And there's a cause of it. What is the cause? I am that.
Identification.
It's the identification. And the cessation of that, letting go of the identification, relaxing. Now you're in the present moment. Your mind is clear. Your mind is not clouded by your opinions and your thoughts and your ideas that the world is supposed to be the way you think. Yeah.
I think it's important to add that when the mind gets clear like that, you're having the opportunity to experience or a mundane nibbana, because there is no craving. It's balanced, it's open, it's quiet, it's still. So it's a mundane cessation of all, all desire.
And you only have to experience that 100,000, a million times before the super mundane nibbana. But there's always relief when you let go of that tightness. Always. Anybody else? Okay, let's share some merit
Suffering free, of fear struck, fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and all beings find relief. May all beings share the merit of this meditation. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and masters of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good talk, Bhante.
Yeah.
That was an awesome talk.
Awesome. So what sutra that was?
Actually, I was in 3 suttas. One is called All the Taints. It's sutta number 2. Then I went to sutta number 111. And then I went to sutta number 19.
How could something like imaging that you talked about, how could you employ some of that in your daily life, such as when you're in like a work environment and you're being barraged and the 6 R's are very difficult? The smiling, huh?
Is it hard to smile?
No. When you're at work, if you're not having fun at work, you're not very efficient at what you're doing. So you got to make it fun. And making it fun means the more you smile, the easier it gets.